Hey, and welcome to the Patrick Show for the week of January 22nd. It's been a hell of a week for America, and so by extension, the world. So let's get to it. First of all, Britain. Brexit. We all remember that, right? Well, when the dust from Brexit finally settled, there was a lawsuit popped up. They basically said, hey, British government, you can't just do shit without Parliament. And because this has too many domestic repercussions and you can't count it as foreign policy exclusively. So we're going to put a court case up that says that you can't just invoke Article 50 without passing it through Parliament. And so the British Supreme Court just ruled on that, dismissing the government's case, and ruling in favor of the people that put the point that there's too much domestic policy involved with leaving the European Union, and so now Parliament's got to put it to a vote to figure out how and when and what allows for the triggering of Article 50. This is huge. Because this is it's a really big deal. It's a second chance for all of the people who kind of stopped laughing when Brexit was no longer a joke. It's a second chance for all those politicians that are now getting cold feet because they spent all that time campaigning for Brexit and it actually passed, and now they're having second thoughts, and so it's just wonderful. It fell out of the sky. And it really is a second chance to kind of readdress and take a serious look at what Brexit will entail domestically, exclusively domestically for Britain. This is really just kind of this is a second chance for politicians to sit down and say, hey, are we really going to follow through with this? And if so, what do we need to really look at to do it? So I'm glad they're taking a second look at it. This is really only a minor setback for Theresa May. But I really didn't expect this to happen. I wasn't even actually aware of this court case until recently, so to be fair, this is really out of left field for me, but I'm really glad they're taking a second look at it. I don't expect Parliament to do some drastic, crazy turnaround and say, nah, fuck this shit. We're not going to leave the European Union anymore. I really don't expect that to happen. The people that want to stay within the EU, that party's in the minority right now, and so a lot of pro-Brexit people would need to change their minds in order for there to be any significant setbacks. However, given the last several months, honestly, anything's possible. Who the fuck knows? So, I mean, we could be potentially looking at the biggest reversal I've ever seen outside of a sporting event. Don't hold your breath for it or anything, but it could be happening. And goddamn, I can't even imagine what would happen to Theresa May if they actually turned around and said, no, we don't want to leave the EU anymore. That'll be interesting to see if that happens. But political turmoil, good lord. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that, though, to see how that progresses. It could take a really fucking long time. I know Theresa May has been, we're going to leave the EU by March or whatever. It's definitely not going to be until, definitely later in the year at the very earliest. It could even be until, next several years that, until Brexit and Article 50 actually is triggered and that happens. So, yeah, definitely keep an eye out. In Syria, so this is kind of a big deal. So, we all know Syrians have been fighting each other for several years. And now, just recently, earlier in the week, opposition leaders and representatives of the Syrian government have been in peace talks, well, for most of this week by now. There's a peace conference, I don't know what the fuck you want to call it, but a get together, nice powwow of these leaders and representatives in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan. This meeting was sponsored by Russia, the sponsor of the Syrian government, and well, or at least ally of the Syrian government, and Turkey, who are allied with the rebels. Um, this is kind of like a follow up to the December 30th. They agreed on a ceasefire that's been kind of working. It's not perfect, obviously. There's still been little pockets of fighting, but it's been largely effective. Um, but It's been holding it pretty well, and so Syria and Turkey kind of got everyone together and to kind of talk out and solidify an actual ceasefire and solidify an actual end to the hostilities. So notably, you've got like there's some the big players in the region, Turkey, Russia, even Iran, have agreed to support a a ceasefire of some kinds and end to hostilities. But significantly, Syria hasn't. So both groups are still being very combative toward each other. The opposition and the rebels not wanting to give up any ground to the Syrian government, and rightfully so. The Syrian government's been being kind of a dick. But uh, honestly, fucking shit gets done if no one's willing to compromise on anything. If you just kind of dig into the trenches, no one gets anywhere. And that's going to be the biggest issue I think we're going to see walking into these peace talks, if they don't break down by the end of next week, is that everyone's just going to... They're both... at the very least, the rebels aren't budging on anything. They're not going to give up shit. So I don't think it's going to do very well. I'm optimistic. I really am. They've been fighting for a long time, and we would see some serious like humanitarian issues going on over there. So I'm really gonna be happy if they actually manage to put a stop to this shit. But on the same hand, I'm not optimistic about it. I really don't expect crazy rainbows and hand holding when the doors open and everyone's done. Because again, if no one's willing to get to a ceasefire, if the Syrians can't agree to stop fighting each other, then it doesn't matter how many countries in the world are willing to support a ceasefire. If the people actually fighting won't agree to stop fighting, there won't be an end to the fighting. Like, okay, fine, yeah, the Syrian government's like a puppet of Russia or whatever, and countries supporting other countries, but that's still like the boots on the ground, and the people actually dying are Syrians. And until the Syrians stop being okay with Syrians dying, there's not going to be any real forward movement on this. And the Al Jazeera article that I actually cite in the description has a really good point about this too. Is that there's like a lack of unity among the opposition, and none of the outside countries that have fingers in this war, and none of them really want to give Syria back to the citizens. Because let's be honest, if we as an international community really wanted this fighting to stop, it wouldn't have lasted 5-6 years. So, until people want it, nothing's going to change. And especially at least until the Syrians want it to change, nothing's going to change. And I really hope that I'm proven wrong, but I don't expect to. I expect that these talks might lead to just another extension of a tenuous, at best, ceasefire. And we're just going to continue to see talk after talk and nothing happening. Back to a little more optimistic news. California. Holy shit. Good job. They've had like the worst fucking drought for the last 3 years. And it looks like they're finally getting into the home stretch of it. For the first time in the last 3 years, the U.S. Drought Monitor did not show any part of California in their highest designation of like dryness at exceptional drought. Nowhere in California has that rating. Good job. Holy shit. To be fair, this is not the time to start running around with buckets of water and screaming that, whatever. No, they're not out of the woods yet. But this is a huge improvement for California. And even in the last few months, we've seen drastic improvements across the state. And I'm really optimistic for them walking forward, because that drought's been a real pain in the ass. So, good job, California. Um, Holy shit, this is running really long. So, in the interest of time, I can't talk about anything that Trump has been doing this week. So, real quick recap for this week in Trump. Okay, Trump withdrew America from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I don't know how to feel about that. We'll see how that works out. They're still gonna try to keep the other member countries are gonna try and keep working with it, but I don't think it's gonna last too long without us in there. Plus, it's gonna move a lot of commerce to China, and we know how Trump feels about China, so that's kind of iffy move on his part. Reinstated the Mexico City policy. Mexico City policy says that foreign aid groups sponsored by or federal funded by the American federal government cannot provide abortions in the interest of family planning. Obviously, if it's like a life of the mother issue, they can provide abortions, but the most circumstances they can't provide abortions. Trump also greenlit the Keystone XL and the Dakota Access pipelines in one fell swoop. Whoosh! Like that. Bam! Environmentalists shit their pants. And Republicans everywhere screamed, hooray! That's gonna be a mess. There's no way that's gonna end well, doing that. But again, we'll see. He threatened to send the feds to Chicago to clean it up. That was hilarious. He literally called Rahm Emanuel out and was like, dude, get your shit together, son. I'm gonna send the po-po down your way. It was hilarious. Trump also, all of his crazy ass cabinet picks have been running through the ethics committee and doing not very well. I see videos on my Facebook feed every day of some cabinet pick being made a fool out of by the Democrats, and but somehow they keep passing the ethics committee. So who knows? They're all crazy. I'm pretty sure of it. And he near the end of the week here, most recently, he managed to piss off most of the international community by temporarily banning Muslims from specific countries from entering America, even to such an extent of taking people with valid green cards and visas, turning them around at the terminal, putting them on another plane, right back to their country, or to wherever they came from at the moment. So, that's been this week in Trump. I'm probably gonna have to start doing like extra specials just to talk about all the crazy shit Trump does over the week. Because goddamn, it's like everything he does is notable and has worldwide impact. And still using Twitter to announce all of it. So, well, that's been this week. That's it for this week. If there's any adjustment or anything changes in any of these stories, I'm sure you'll hear about it right here. If you want to do any further reading on any of the topics I spoke about in this particular video, you can check out links in the description below. And that is it. I will see you all next week.